Story number 1. The man who always ordered at closing. I used to work the closing shift at a Dunkin just off the interstate. It was the kind of location that stayed open later than most, mainly to catch the late-night drivers and truckers passing through. Quiet, mostly. A few regulars. Occasionally a group of teenagers or a tired couple coming off a long drive. I didn't mind the quiet. In fact, I preferred it. We locked the lobby at 11, but the drive-thru stayed open until midnight. That last hour was usually dead. I'd mop, refill the syrups, check the inventory. Sometimes I'd just lean against the counter and scroll through my phone, listening to the low hum of the fridge or the soft hiss of the coffee machine settling. But about 6 months into the job, I started noticing him. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a man who came through the drive-thru right before closing, always between 11:50 and 11:55. Never earlier, never later. His order never changed. Large black coffee, nothing else. At first, I didn't think much of it. We had regulars all the time. People are creatures of habit. But this guy, there was something off. For one, he never spoke. Not even a thank you. He'd pull up to the speaker. I'd hear the static click on, and then silence. I'd say the usual. "Welcome to Dunkin'. What can I get for you?" A few seconds would pass. Then I'd hear it, clear and steady. "One large black coffee." His voice had a strange tone to it. Flat, slow, like someone reading from a script but without emotion. I tried once to ask if he wanted cream or sugar, but he just repeated it. One large black coffee. No irritation in his voice. No impatience. Just the same line, like a loop. When I handed him the drink at the window, he wouldn't look at me. He'd take the cup, give a small nod, and drive off without another word. He never paid. The first time it happened, I was caught off guard. I assumed he had mobile pay or was part of some new loyalty thing I didn't know about. But when I checked the system, there was no mobile order. No rewards scan. Nothing. I told my manager the next morning. She laughed and said, maybe I'd forgotten to ring it up. That maybe I was tired. Could have been. But then it happened again and again. Always the same time. Always the same order. And never, ever, a payment. I started to feel uneasy. Not afraid exactly. Just unsettled. You know how sometimes a smell or a sound can make you feel like something's not quite right, even if you can't explain it? That's how it was with him. His car was always the same too, a dark green sedan, maybe a Honda. Hard to tell in the low lighting. The windows were tinted. I never saw his face clearly, just a vague outline, like a shadow behind the glass. After a couple of weeks, I began watching the security monitor before he pulled up. His car never showed on the screen until it was already at the speaker, like it just appeared. I mentioned it once to a coworker during shift change. Told her about the guy. She gave me a weird look and said, "That sounds like the guy from the story." I raised an eyebrow. "What story?" She leaned in. "There was a robbery here. Years ago, before you started. One of the night staff was shot. Guy came through late, ordered a coffee, then pulled a gun when the cashier opened the window. I didn't know what to say. I thought maybe she was messing with me. But she was serious. Some people say the guy got away. Some say he didn't." She shrugged, then clocked out. I didn't sleep much that night. The next shift, I kept a closer eye on everything. Paid attention to the cameras, checked the register, reports, Looked for footprints on the wet pavement outside. Nothing. Just the car, the voice, the same order. I started ringing it up every time just so there'd be a record. But the till never came up short, and the receipt never printed. It was like the order never existed. Then came the night I decided to wait outside. I finished early. At around 11:45, I stepped out back with my coat and stood in the dark lot, just out of view of the drive-thru lane. Sure enough, at 11:53, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. His car. It rolled up to the speaker. I stayed hidden. The speaker clicked on. I heard my own voice play through the system. Welcome to Dunkin. What can I get for you? But I hadn't said anything. Then came his reply, one large black coffee. I watched the car from the side. No license plate, no light inside, no face, just the car. When it pulled forward, I ran around the back, heart pounding, and slipped inside before it reached the window. I stood behind the counter and watched it pull up. The window was shut. I didn't open it. I didn't want to. He didn't honk, didn't call out, just sat there. After a minute, I forced myself to move. I opened the drawer, grabbed a cup, filled it with coffee, and handed it out without a word. He took it. No thanks. No glance. As the car rolled away, I tried to watch it on the rear cameras, but it wasn't there. 1 second it was at the window, then gone. Just like that. I told my manager again. She listened this time. Really listened. Asked for the timestamps. Checked the security footage. There was no recording of him that night. Nothing. The camera showed the lane, the speaker, the window, no car, no customer. Just me, standing there, handing coffee into an empty space. I stopped working nights after that, swapped shifts, told them I had school in the mornings. I never saw him again. But a month later, one of the new hires told me he'd gotten spooked. Said a customer came by just before closing. Ordered a black coffee? Didn't speak. Didn't pay. He said the man looked familiar, like a photo he'd seen in the break room. We don't have any photos in the break room. That night, I walked out to the drive-thru lane just before midnight. Stood by the speaker. The pavement was dry, but right beneath the speaker box, there was a single wet footprint facing the window. I didn't go back after that. But sometimes, when I pass that old Dunkin', I look toward the drive-thru, one large black coffee, and nothing else. Story number 2, Table 6. I started working at Dunkin' when I was 21. Just a part-time thing while I figured things out. The store was tucked between a gas station and a dry cleaner on a quiet road, not far from the edge of town. Nothing special. Same orange and pink tiles. Same stale smell of sugar and burnt coffee that every Dunkin' has after 8 p.m. I was usually on the evening shift. Things slowed down after dinner, and by 9 or so, it would be dead. I liked that. Gave me space to think. On my first week, I remember the manager, Nora, giving me the basic rundown, how to restock, how to run the register, how to clean. Toward the end of her list, she paused. Oh, and don't sit at table 6, she said without looking at me. I thought she was joking. Why? She just shrugged. Just don't. The way she said it caught me off guard. Not like a warning. More like a rule she didn't understand but followed anyway. I didn't ask again. Table 6 was near the back window, corner seat, next to the coat rack no one used. It wasn't anything special, just 2 cheap plastic chairs and a slightly wobbling round table like all the others. Still, I noticed something weird about it right away. No one ever sat there. Not the late night regulars, not the moms who came in after soccer practice. Even when the place was packed, table 6 stayed empty. I didn't think much of it till a few weeks in. It was rainy Tuesday, I think. Quiet night. Nora had called in sick and I was closing alone. I finished mopping early and decided to sit for a second while the last pot of coffee brewed. Without thinking, I sat at table 6. The seat was cold. Colder than I expected. I figured maybe the AC vent above it was stronger, or maybe the rain outside was seeping chill through the window pane. I sat back, phone in hand, scrolling mindlessly. And that's when I noticed the light buzzed differently over that table. A slight flicker, barely noticeable. Not broken, just off rhythm, like it was out of sync with the others. And then there was the sound. It was so faint, I thought I was imagining it at first. A kind of whispering, not words, just soft rustling, like someone shifting in a chair across from me. I looked up, but the seat was empty. I got up, told myself I was just tired, went back behind the counter, grabbed my drink, and stayed on my feet for the rest of the night. Next day, I told Luis, the guy who usually worked morning shifts, about it. Not in a serious way, just joking around. Sat at table 6 last night. I think your ghost said hi. He froze. No joke, he said. Don't sit there again. I laughed it off. Come on, man. You believe that stuff? He didn't laugh. He said the story goes that years ago, some guy used to come in every night, always sat at that table. Quiet guy. Didn't talk much. Just sipped coffee and stared out the window. One night after closing, the crew found him still sitting there. Dead. No signs. No struggle. Just gone. They say the chair across from him was pulled out, like someone had been sitting with him. I figured it was just some local legend. Every place has them, right? Especially night shift workers with nothing to talk about. But still, I stopped sitting there. Until one night when I forgot. It had been a rough day. Long hours. My feet hurt. My back was stiff. And I wasn't thinking straight. I brought my drink to the dining area and just dropped into the nearest seat. It was table 6. It took me a few seconds to realize. I glanced toward the counter. No one else in the store. No drive-thru beeps. Just me. And the sound of the cooler humming. Then I heard it again. That whisper. Software low. Not like it was coming from the speaker or the kitchen. It was close. I turned to look at the chair across from me. Still empty. But the seat, it was slightly pulled out. Not much. Just an inch or two. Enough to look like someone had stood up recently. I stared at it for a long time. Then I reached out and slowly pushed it in. The whisper stopped. I didn't move for a while after that. A few days later, I was cleaning the glass by the back window when I noticed something etched in the side of the table. Faint, almost gone. I had to angle my phone light just right to see it. It was a name. Ray. And next to it, a small date. 2014. I asked Nora if anyone named Ray used to work there. She didn't answer right away. Just stared at me for a moment. Then went back to her clipboard. Later that night, while I was restocking the donut trays, she came over. He wasn't staff, just came in every night. Quiet, wore a gray coat, sat at that table. Her voice was flat. I was the one who found him. She walked away before I could say anything. Things started feeling different after that. Sometimes the back corner felt colder than the rest of the shop. The flickering light above table 6 would dim for a few seconds, then go back to normal. Once, I swore I saw a reflection in the window, like someone sitting across from me, even though I was nowhere near the table. One night, during a storm, the power went out for about 10 seconds. When the lights came back, every chair in the dining room was where it had been, except the one at table 6. It was pulled out, farther this time, like someone had stood up and hadn't come back. I avoided that table religiously after that. Wouldn't even mop under it. Louis said he did the same. But the weirdest night was my last one there. I had already given my notice. Got a better job offer. It was a slow shift, and I was alone again. Just 1 hour left. I stood behind the counter, arms crossed, waiting for the time to pass. The bell on the door rang. A man walked in, soaked from the rain. Gray, coat, hood up. He didn't come to the counter, just walked straight to the back of the store, to table 6. Sat down. Didn't say a word. I waited, thinking maybe he'd order something, but he just sat there, hands on the table, staring out of the window. I couldn't see his face. The lighting didn't hit him right. After a minute or two, I stepped out from behind the counter. Sir? We're closing soon. He didn't respond. I took a few cautious steps forward. Sir? Still nothing. I stopped halfway across the floor. The flickering light above table 6 started again, and I realized something that made my skin go cold. The chair across from him. It was pulled out too, like he wasn't sitting alone. I backed away. Didn't say another word. Just returned behind the counter and waited. A few minutes passed. When I looked again, he was gone. No bell on the door. No wet footprints, just gone. Both chairs at the table were pushed in. I didn't clean that night. I didn't lock up properly. I just left. Told Nora I wasn't coming in for my final shift. She didn't argue. Sometimes I'd drive past that old Dunkin. The lights still flicker over the back corner. And every now and then, if I slow down and squint through the window, I swear I see a shape sitting at table 6. In the chair across from it, it's never empty. Story number 3, the former manager. I started working at Dunkin about 8 months ago. Small location, nothing fancy. Just a stretch of glass windows and a fading orange sign on the edge of town. We opened early and closed at midnight, but I usually worked the late shift. To close. It was quiet then, the kind of quiet you think you want until you get too much of it. The place always smelled like old coffee and fryer oil, no matter how much we cleaned. We had those fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly, and they'd flicker sometimes, but no one really noticed. Half the time, it was just me and the manager, Tanya, who worked evenings too. She was the kind of person who talked a lot, but never really said anything. Always tapping on her phone. Always halfway through a diet soda. Anyway, about a month into the job, she went on leave. Family emergency. I didn't ask. The assistant manager, Ben, took over the schedule. Then they brought in someone named Heather to help with late night coverage. She was nice. Quiet, polite, a little older. Said she used to work at the same location years ago. On her first night, we were going over closing procedures, and she said something strange. This store always feels like it's holding its breath after 11. I just gave a polite laugh. Yeah, it gets kind of still. But she looked serious. You ever hear anything weird on the headset? I shook my head. Like, what? She paused. Voices, orders that don't show up on the screen. I didn't know what to say, so I shrugged and told her maybe the system glitches. She didn't say anything after that. Just went back to wiping the counter. That same week, I was working alone at the front register around 11:30 p.m. Drive-thru was slow. A couple of cars earlier in the night, nothing after 10. I was restocking the syrup bottles when the headset beeped. "Welcome to Dunkin. What can I get for you?" I said. There was a pause. Then a voice came through, low and familiar. "Medium hot coffee, cream, no sugar." I froze. It was the exact phrasing Tanya used whenever she ordered her drink. Always the same, always that same slow tone. I figured maybe she was back early. I looked at the screen. No order appeared. Hello? I said again. Silence. I waited a few seconds and stepped toward the window. No car. Lot was empty. The camera feed showed nothing. I took off the headset and checked the system. Nothing pending. No missed orders. Just a blank queue. When Heather came in for her shift change, I told her about it. She didn't even look surprised. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "they come back to work even when they're gone." I didn't know how to respond. She went into the back to start cleaning the machines. The next night, I was checking the stockroom when I heard the beep again. I walked out, headset already on. Same voice. "Medium hot coffee, cream, no sugar." This time I didn't speak. I just waited. There was a sound, like breathing on the line. Not heavy, just enough to know someone, or something, was still there. The order never showed up on the screen. I walked outside and checked the drive-thru lane. Still empty, but the faint smell of coffee hung in the air. Fresh and sharp, like it had just been poured. I went back in and found a cup on the counter. A medium, lid sealed, still steaming. I hadn't made it. Neither had Heather. When I asked her, she just stared at the cup. "She used to drink it at 11:30 every night," she whispered. "Who?" Heather looked at me like I should already know. "Rebecca, the old manager. Before Tanya." I blinked. "I thought Tanya's been here forever." "She replaced her." Heather paused. "After the robbery." That word dropped heavy between us. "Wait," I said. "What robbery?" Heather leaned against the wall. 3 years ago. Guy came through the drive-thru late. Said the machine wasn't working. Rebecca opened the window to take the card manually. He pulled a gun, took the till. I stared at her. She tried to stop him. He shot her. Died before the paramedics came. The store suddenly felt too quiet. Heather turned and walked to the back, leaving me standing there with that cup of coffee still steaming like it had just been made. The next few nights, I paid closer attention. The same voice, same order, always between 11:25 and 11:35. And every time, no car, no entry in the system, just a voice in my ear, asking for coffee the way Tanya used to. Except it wasn't Tanya. One night I decided to stay after closing. I locked the doors at midnight and sat by the register, headset off, lights dimmed. I figured I'd wait and see if anything happened. At 12:03, the coffee machine beeped. On its own. I walked over slowly. The hot plate was active. A fresh cup sat beneath the spout. I hadn't brewed anything. I checked the security feed. The front register camera glitched for about 3 seconds. When it came back, the cup was just there, placed. I didn't sleep much that night. A few days later, I went looking for Tanya's old manager files. Just curious, something to anchor what I was feeling. I found a name, Rebecca Lang, There was a printed emergency contact list from years ago, still taped in a back drawer. Her name was on it. Underneath was the line, deceased 2021. I stared at it for a long time. That night, Heather didn't come in. She'd called off, said she wasn't feeling well. I did the close alone. Around 11:30, I put on the headset, just waited. And sure enough, the voice came through. Medium hot coffee, cream, no sugar. But this time, she added something. Can you leave the side door unlocked? I froze. I didn't reply. The line went dead. The rest of the shift was uneventful. But when I went to the back to take the trash out, I noticed the side door's lock bolt was half turned, like someone had tried to open it. The next morning, I found a sticky note on the office desk. My name, neatly written in small slanted handwriting. Just 2 words underneath. Training approved. No one claimed to have left it. No one knew where it came from. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't worn the headset since. But sometimes, when it's quiet and I'm refilling the napkin dispensers or wiping the counters, I swear I hear someone walking behind the counter. Soft steps, slow, like they're still managing the place, like they never really left. And every now and then the machine makes a cup of coffee at exactly 11:30. Medium, cream, no sugar. I pour it down the sink now. But the smell lingers longer than it should. And the next morning the dao cup is always back on the counter, still warm. Story number 4, the bathroom door that locks itself. I never really noticed the bathroom door at first. You don't pay attention to those things when you're new, just trying to learn the ropes, get your hours, make it through the shift. I started working at that Dunkin right after I moved back to my hometown. It was supposed to be temporary, just something to hold me over until I figured things out. The building was older than most, tucked into the corner of a strip mall next to a laundromat that had closed years ago. The floor tiles were faded. The back wall had water damage that never got fixed. But the coffee machines worked, and the customers kept coming. So no one seemed to care. The bathroom was a single stall in the far corner near the hallway where we kept the mop bucket and extra napkins. Customers used it during the day, but after 9 or so, when the lobby emptied out, it stayed quiet. Lights off, door closed. At least that's how it was supposed to be. It started with little things, the kind of stuff you don't think twice about. I'd walk past on my way to restock something and notice the bathroom door was shut, even though I was the only one on shift. I'd try the handle, locked. I'd knock, wait, nothing. Then after a few minutes, it'd be open again, empty. At first, I blamed the latch. The door was old. The knob stuck sometimes. I told myself maybe someone had gone in earlier and didn't close it all the way when they left. Simple stuff, no big deal. But then it kept happening. Always late at night, always when I was alone in the store. One night, I had just mopped the lobby and was heading back to put the bucket away. The hallway was dim. One of the bulbs had blown earlier that week, and no one had replaced it. The only light came from the flicker above the storage shelf. As I passed the bathroom, I heard the latch click. It was quick but sharp. The sound of a lock turning. I froze. I stared at the door. No light under it, no shadow. Nothing. Still, I knocked. No answer. I waited, hand on the knob, listening. Then I turned it slowly. Locked. The hairs on my arms stood up. I walked away. 15 minutes later, when I passed by again, the door was open. Light off. Empty. That night I brought it up to my manager, Dale. He smirked. "Oh yeah, That door's weird. I asked what he meant. Sometimes it locks itself. Been like that for years. We had maintenance look at it once, but they couldn't find anything wrong. I asked if anyone ever got stuck inside. He hesitated. Once. That was all he said. A few days later, a cleaner named Amanda came in for the night shift. She didn't usually talk much. Just came in, did her work, left. That night I was behind the counter counting the register when I heard her call out, "Hey, bathroom door's jammed again." I walked over and found her standing in front of it, mop in hand. She looked annoyed. I knocked. "No answer," she said. I tried the handle. It was locked. I knocked too. Nothing. Then I crouched and looked underneath. No feet. Probably just stuck. "Again," I muttered. We both stepped away, and I was about to go back to the counter when we heard it. The faucet. It turned on, just for a second. We both looked at each other. I walked back, tried the handle. Still locked. Then suddenly, click! It swung open, light off, sink dry, empty. Amanda didn't say anything. She just backed away and kept mopping the hallway. From that point on, I started watching the door more closely. It became a pattern. Always between 10:30 and midnight. Locked, without reason. Then open. Then locked again. Sometimes I'd hear faint sounds from inside. Shuffling. A tap. Once, what sounded like someone lightly clearing their throat. Every time, I checked. And every time, no one was there. I stopped using the bathroom during my shift. I just waited till I got home. Even thinking about stepping inside made my stomach tighten. But one night, I didn't have a choice. It had been a long day, and I hadn't gone since morning. The store was quiet. Lobby empty. Drive-thru slow. I stood outside the bathroom door and waited, watching it, half expecting it to lock the moment I reached for the knob. It didn't. I stepped in and flipped on the light. It was just a bathroom. Plain. Cream-colored walls, a cracked mirror, faint smell of bleach. I closed the door and turned the lock. As soon as I did, I felt it. A shift in the air. Not colder, just tighter. Like the room was a fraction smaller than it had been a second ago. I went to the sink and ran the water, trying to shake the feeling. Then I turned the faucet off and reached for the door. It didn't move. I turned the lock. Heard it click. Still stuck. I jiggled the handle. Nothing. The light flickered once, then again. I stepped back. Then something strange happened. I heard a knock. Not from the outside, from behind me. I turned slowly. There was no one there. Just the mirror, and my own reflection, staring back at me. Only it wasn't quite right. The reflection wasn't blinking. I stood there, not moving. Then the light flicked again, and everything looked normal. I didn't remember unlocking the door, but it opened the next time I tried. I walked out. Didn't look back. I didn't tell anyone. Not Amanda, not Dale, not even my friend Jenna, who worked mornings. It felt stupid, embarrassing, like something you dreamed and convinced yourself was real. But a week later, Amanda didn't show up. Dale said she quit without notice. Her last shift, she texted him saying she was done with that place. He didn't ask why, but I did. I found her number and sent a message. Just asked if she was okay. Said I missed working with her. She replied with one sentence, "Never go in there alone." That was the last I heard from her. Last night was my final shift. I put in my 2 weeks after that message. I was the only one closing. Dale had gone home early. Around 11:15, I was wiping the counter when I heard it again, the click of the bathroom lock. I turned and stared down the hallway. The door was closed. Then came a second sound, a whisper, software from behind the door. My name. I didn't move. I didn't answer. I turned off the lobby lights and walked to the front to start the closing checklist. When I passed by 10 minutes later, the door was open. Light off. But something had been written on the mirror. Just a finger-drawn line down the center, as if someone had slowly dragged their hand through the fog that wasn't there. I didn't go inside. I finished the checklist, turned off the machines, and left. I don't know what's wrong with that bathroom. Maybe it's the door. Maybe it's something else. But I still think about that knock, the one from behind the mirror, like something's waiting in there, not angry, just patient. Story number 5, graveyard shift. I never really liked the night shift, but I needed the money. Most people avoided the graveyard slot at our Dunkin, midnight to 6 a.m. Barely any customers, just a handful of truckers or night drivers grabbing caffeine before the next stretch of road. The place felt different at night. Slower, quieter, like time didn't move the same way it did during the day. My first few shifts were uneventful. I'd sweep the lobby, prep the donuts for morning, and kill time by wiping down already clean counters. We weren't allowed to wear headphones, so I'd hum to myself or listen to the buzzing of the fridge, the occasional beep of the fryer resetting, and the humming from the flickering light above the register. It was peaceful in a weird way. The building sat on a patch of road with nothing around but a gas station and a field that stretched out into the dark. No houses, no streetlights behind us. Just black space. Once, stepped out the back door. The bathroom lights were on a timer. So were the ones in the back room. They'd shut off if you didn't move for a while and click back on when you walked through. The first time it happened, I was in the lobby. The place was dead. I was stacking sleeves for hot cups when the motion light in the hallway behind the counter clicked on. I figured maybe a fly flew past the sensor, or maybe I hadn't closed the back room door all the way and it swung a little. That kind of thing happens at night when you're alone and jumpy. Still, I walked over to check. Nothing. No wind, no open door, just the hallway light on. I shrugged it off. Later that week, it happened again. Same time, around 3:15 a.m. That number stuck in my head for some reason. I don't know why, but every time the light came on by itself, it was always just after 3 a.m. Once, I waited, stood still behind the counter with my eyes on the hallway. Nothing. Then, just as I looked away, the light clicked on again. Always that slow, buzzing hum. Faint, but there. I stopped going back there unless I had to. Then came the night I saw her. It was 3:17. I remember because I just checked the drive-thru clock. Not a single car had come through in over an hour. I glanced up from the register screen and through the window that faced the lobby. I saw a woman, older, gray hair pulled back, long coat, just sitting at the table by the far window. I hadn't heard the door chime. I blinked, walked around the counter, but when I reached the dining area, she was gone. I checked the door. Still locked. Not even a fingerprint on the glass. I walked back slowly, heart knocking a little harder than usual. I didn't tell anyone. It felt too weird to explain like I'd imagined it. A few nights later, I saw her again. Same time, same table. Only this time, she was looking at me, not moving, not blinking, just staring. I didn't go out there. I turned away, locked myself in the supply room for a while, and when I came back out, Nothing. Chair pushed in. Lobby empty. I started bringing my thermos from home after that. Something about having something familiar helped keep me grounded, but the feeling stayed, like I wasn't alone in there. Not quite. I never saw her move. Never saw her come in. Just there, then gone. I started leaving one of the security cameras on the front monitor. Couldn't rewind or record, but at least I could glance up while I worked. One night, I looked up and saw her sitting again. Clear as day. I walked out of the office. Nothing. Went back. Still sitting there on the monitor. That was the first time I felt scared. Not creeped out. Not nervous. Scared. Like I didn't know what was real anymore. I asked Ben, the assistant manager, if there had ever been incidents on the night shift. He shrugged, said something about an old regular who used to sit there every morning. She passed away a few years ago, he said. Car accident. Used to sit by the window. Real quiet. I asked what time she usually came in. He didn't look up from his clipboard. About 3:15, I think. That was all he said. I didn't push it. After that, I kept my head down, did my job, ignored the lights, the flickers, the subtle sense that someone was standing just behind me when I bent down to grab lids or straws. I stopped glancing at the monitor, and then came the night. The drive-thru beeped on its own. It was 3:18. No car, just the beep. I waited a second, then spoke into the mic. Welcome to Dunkin', what can I get for you? Silence. Then the speaker hissed faintly, like it picked up breath. No voice. I leaned closer. Hello? Still nothing. I turned off the mic and stepped outside the back door for air. Cold wind. Dead quiet. Black sky. When I stepped back in, the front door was open. Just a few inches. I hadn't unlocked it. I walked to the register and shut it firmly. Locked it again. Double-checked the security latch. Then I noticed the chair. The one by the window. Pulled out slightly. I hadn't touched it. It stayed like that the rest of the night. I didn't sleep when I got home. Just lay in bed with the lights on, staring at the ceiling until it was time to go in again. Last night was different. Last night I heard her voice. It was just after 3. Drive-thru beeped. I was ready this time. Staring at the mic, hand hovering over the button. It beeped again. I answered. A pause. Then, clear as anything. Black coffee. Just cream. Simple. But the voice, it was soft, older, familiar, and it echoed faintly like it wasn't coming through the speaker, but from the other side of the room. I turned slowly. There was no one there. Just the empty counter, the silent fryer, the distant flicker of the hallway light. But on the counter, a medium cup, lid on, steam rising. I hadn't made it. I stepped closer, reached out, touched the cup. Warm. Then I heard it. Right behind me. A chair scraping gently across the floor. I didn't turn around. Not right away. I stood there for a long time, just breathing. And when I finally did turn, everything looked normal. Chair pushed in. No one there, but the coffee was gone, and the faint smell of cream lingered in the air. I finished my shift, clocked out early. No one asked why. I don't think I'll go back. They say the graveyard shift is peaceful, quiet, but some nights I wonder if that silence isn't just emptiness. Maybe it's waiting for someone, or something. And maybe I was the only one who ever noticed she never left. Story number 6. He only ordered once. I've worked at plenty of jobs before this one, but there's something about late night shifts at a place like Dunkin' that's different. It's the routine mostly. The repetition. Brew. Wipe. Stack. Refill. You fall into a rhythm, and eventually the silence starts to feel normal. This particular store was on a quiet corner, just off a service road. Not much traffic after 9 p.m., and we closed the lobby at 10, kept the drive-thru open until midnight. I usually handled the last shift alone, which didn't bother me. I liked the stillness, the hum of the equipment, the soft clink of lids in the dispenser, the dull buzz of the fluorescent light over the register that flickered every so often, like it was breathing. That night started just like any other. It was early November, I think. Cold outside. That dry kind of cold that makes your ears sting the moment you step out. The store was empty. Lobby cleaned. Supplies stocked. Nothing left to do but wait out the last half hour. At 11:34, the drive-thru speaker crackled. It startled me a bit. There hadn't been a car in almost an hour. I stepped up, pressed the button. "Welcome to Dunkin'. What can I get for you?" A voice came through. Low, slow, clear. "One coffee, medium, just black." That was it. No small talk, no hesitation. I rang it up and read out the total. No response. Then I watched the screen as the car rolled around to the window. It was a gray sedan. Older model. Windows tinted just enough that I couldn't see inside clearly. The engine idled quietly, steady and even. I opened the window. "Medium black coffee?" The driver nodded. I handed it over. His hand looked pale under the yellow light. Thin. Bony. He took the cup, paused for a second, then nodded again. Didn't say a word. Didn't pay. I was about to mention it, but something about him made me hesitate. I didn't see his face, just the shape of it. The way he kept his head tilted slightly down, like he didn't want to be seen. Then he drove off. I stood there for a few seconds, just listening to the car fade into the distance. That was it. He only ordered once. But that's when everything started to feel wrong. I checked the system. No order logged, nothing pending, no payment, no trace. I looked at the clock again. 11:38. For a while, I just thought maybe it was a system error, or I forgot to hit the payment button. It happens, especially at the end of a long shift. The next night, I found a medium cup already sitting on the prep counter when I came in, lid sealed, fresh, still warm. I hadn't made it. I asked Jenna, the girl on the earlier shift, if she'd made one by mistake. She said no. She didn't even touch the machine after 7. It unsettled me, but I tossed the cup and moved on. That night, nothing happened. No beep, no car. But when I stepped outside to dump the trash at midnight, I noticed something in the corner of the lot. A coffee lid. Not one of ours. Not one I recognized. It was crushed slightly, like it had been stepped on. I picked it up. It was clean. No dirt, no smudge. Just out of place. The night started to blur after that. I'd hear the beep on the headset around the same time, 11:30 to 11:40, but no one would speak. Just static or faint breathing. Once I thought I heard someone say, "Still warm," but it was so quiet I couldn't be sure. The cameras didn't help. They were old, cheap. The night vision barely worked. I tried to rewind. After one of those nights, and the screen glitched. Just a white flash, then a still frame of the drive-thru. No car, no motion, but the cup, that was there, on the sill of the window, sitting perfectly still. Steam rising. That's when I really started to feel it. Not fear exactly, just watched. Like I wasn't alone in the building, even when it was empty. I started catching glimpses, not shapes really, more like suggestions, reflections in the coffee pot. A figure by the door. Gone the moment I turned. The worst was the night I found the receipt. I was wiping down the counter, clearing up, when I noticed the printer had spit one out. Medium black coffee, no cream, no sugar, no time stamp, no price, just a name at the bottom. Paid. That's all it said. I kept the receipt in my pocket. Still have it, folded up in a drawer somewhere. I asked Dale, the store manager, if there were any weird incidents on the late shift. He laughed. Said the only weird thing was how I kept asking, but the next day he called me into the office, asked if I'd been pranking people, leaving cups out, making fake orders. I told him no. He looked uncomfortable. Then he mentioned something, offhand, like it was nothing. Had a guy die in the parking lot once, years ago. Heart attack. Just pulled in, never even got out of the car. I asked when. He shrugged. Long time ago. November, maybe. Didn't think much of it, he said. He hadn't even ordered anything, just sat there. I nodded, left the office. The pieces were forming, but I didn't want to see them. On my final shift, I came in early. Wanted to close everything before it got dark. The store was quiet. I wiped down the tables, refilled the sugar, made a pot of coffee just to have something warm nearby. Around 11:35, the headset beeped. I didn't move. It beeped again. Then a voice. Familiar now. One coffee, medium, just black. I looked at the monitor. Nothing. I pressed the button slowly. Drive-thru's closed early tonight, I said. Silence. Then, softly, still warm. The line went dead. I turned off the headset, poured out the pot. I locked the window, turned off the lights. But before I left, I walked past the counter one last time. And there it was, a medium cup, lid sealed, still warm, to the touch. I didn't take it, didn't throw it away. I just left it there. And when I walked out into the cold night air, I swear I saw the gray sedan, parked at the edge of the lot, no driver. Just sitting there, facing the store. I never went back. He only ordered once. But I think he's still waiting for someone to bring it to him. If that story gave you chills, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real life inspired horror tales. Don't forget to check out the videos appearing on your screen right now. You won't want to miss them. And if you've ever experienced something strange yourself, share your story in the comments below. We're listening.